Hi, this is Ayodhya Vijayaratna. I'm representing Group 19. Today I have my team members Giridhar and Nanda with me. We will be discussing about the research paper 6, which is talking about intelligent scheduling for Hubble Space Telescope observations. In this paper, describe the SPIKE system, which was the general framework for the scheduling that has been implemented by Space Telescope Science Institute of NASA. There was high demand for research grade telescopes for the scientific community. SPIKE scheduler was developed for Hubble Space Telescope, but the main focus of this telescope was flexibility and general use. SPIKE considers quantitative representation and progression of having constraint and soft preference. The use of scheduling search strategies is based on the multi-start stochastic repair. The need for efficient scheduling is needed for space-based facilities, but it was very closely due to the limitation of the members, and it need to have unique scientific knowledge and ability. SPIKE schedulers solved several other astronomical scheduling problems, and some problems were not even related to astronomy. HST Scheduling has been launched in April 1990 and has provided new capabilities for astronomical researchers. The HST scheduling problem was one of the largest and most complex scheduling problem faced on a continuous basis. Processes can specify a variety of constraints on exposure in order to express the scientific goals. Some of them are timing requirement, such as precedence and minimum and maximum time separations, ordering, interpretability, and repetition. The primary resource contains for HST scheduling is the amount of observation and time availability. Manufacturing flow in the primary mirror. HST is actively involved in full research programs that were capable of producing the large number of exciting results. HST was serviced by a space shuttle in late 1993 to compensate figure to the mirror and to replace the main camera with the second generation instruments. By doing this, they were able to increase the optical quality of the telescope. Some of the observation must be excluded within the certain absolute time interval. To provide the flexibility, process can be contained or selected. These exposures may not be scheduled until the process has modified in STS that is condition has been satisfied. Let's move to the next slide, which we talk about the representation and combination of the constraint and preferences. There are two types of constraints. First one is feasibility constraint. The other one is preference constraint. Feasibility constraint will specify conditions or times when activities may or may not be scheduled. They have used the static and hard constraint since they may not violate under normal circumstances. If we take example of HST scheduling contest, we can come up with three main targets. Provide 2 month between observation and then repeat it on the same target. And it also avoid scheduling observation when sun is within 50 degrees of the target, and it did not roll the spacecraft more than 30 degrees from its normal orientation. The second constraint is preference constraint. In this, we specify quality judgment on the scheduling conditions. which are preferred but not required. This information may be based on objectives or subjective factors. HST scheduling contents for that is minimize is scattered light from the bright limb of the earth, maximize the chance of the successful acquiring guide stars, and also place an observation as close to the normal role as possible. When doing this observation, it is important that both the feasibility and preference information be considered simultaneously during schedule construction. If we ignore the feasibility constraint, that can lead to an unexperimentable schedule. When we move to the combination of preference, suitability functions, if we think in general, there will be many co-consistent act on a task. So it is necessary to combine the degree of the presence from all application constraints. This process is similar to that employed in a number of rule-based expert systems that access evidence for and against the various conclusions. There are some limitations, such as the knowledge base should be form a tree so that no evidence could repeat twice when we are taking the alternative paths of reasoning. And the next one is it's adequate the many scheduling problems, and it has the advantage of being computationally traceable. Techniques are used in rule-based systems for evaluating evidence for or against the discrete conclusion cannot be directly applied to scheduling. It will require formulating a way that efficiently express the variety of the constraint that usually appears in these problems. We will be able to combine evidence from two or more independent constraints. Usually, this scheduling problems have a constraint that is specified time when an activity is not permitted to be scheduled. This is important because it allows scheduler to eliminate blocks from or further consideration. And next is consistency method. Consistency method is used to improve efficiency of the discrete CSP, and this can be used in Spike 2. Consistency techniques explicit the information that is implicit in the constraint. There are few techniques that can be used to speed the scheduling search. Those are non-consistency, arc consistency, and path consistency. Node consistency. Node consistency focus on removing values from consideration of domain values that can be part of the solution. This can be determined based on the unary constraint, and they have implemented functions that are presented externally. Arc consistency refers to the removing values from the domains of the variables to satisfy binary constraint. Then the path consistency refers to the interface of the additional constraint based on those explicit states. The next one is computational aspects. When implementing the suitability functions on the digital hardware, it's requires continuous suitability to be decentralized in time and value, or both parameters. In the Spike, they are able to avoid any fundamental decentralizations in time due to two main reasons. It introduced an artificial time granularity into a problem, and most of the important constraint yield stability functions. These have long intervals of constraint values, and so that they will lead to inefficiency represented by a large number of identical values for many discrete time points. They haven't adapted decentralization of the suitability function value that allows suitability function to present uh, piecewise constraint functions, which we mentioned as PCF. The suitability has value of S1 to T1 up to T2, then suitability values are not restricted or fixed value sets. From here onwards, my team member Ananda will continue. Thank you. Nanda, I think you're on mute.
Sorry. Hi, Giri. And coming to the Spike CSP Toolkit, variables can be assigned values at any time inconsistent with other assigned values, and this is the two important reasons that enables use of information and constraints, and enable scheduling and a simplified version of the search problem. Also, you can force a variable to a specific assignment, the value is then ignored, or if a value is assigned, or the planners can divide the activity, they can plan into active and set an inactive set with or without assigned values, so they can easily control focus of the search process. And not only that, the priority values are dynamically exclude them schedule time for reasons other than the formal constraint specifications also. And the toolkit mainly provides an allocation history mechanism with the ability to mark the current state and save it on any mark. If it is necessary, you can turn off the history mechanism for improvement and runtime performance as well. And next, coming to the next slide. Yep, it's a time sampling. As noted that about the scheduling interval for an activity is discretized as a part of the translation into CSP variable domain. As a rule, the sampling interval must be less than the time scale for significant changes in the scheduling constraints. And not only that, coming to the scheduling search in Spike. In Spike CST Toolkit, these are some of the parts in this. And coming to the Spike, treats schedule construction as a constraint optimization problem, uses a heuristic repair-based scheduling search technique. And not only that, they have the following steps to implement. One is the trial assignment, and the other one is how to get the trial assignment by using some repairs. And the third one is deconflict. By using the 3 steps, we can be schedule a search in the Spike. And not only that, and again coming to next slide, it's trial assignment heuristics and the repair heuristics. And in the heuristics we have the two things, that is, first one is the trial assignment heuristics and the next one is the repair heuristics, and the number of the time related activities has been done in this. Not only that, and the choice of the good trial assignment can be important for repair based methods, and to this we have the selected heuristics to identify the most powerful combinations also. Not only that, several heuristics were identified on this basis. One of the most successful selects most constrained activities to assign first, where the number of minimum conflicts times is used as the measure of degree of constraint. And coming to the repair heuristic, the repair heuristics used by the Spike first are based on the successful neural network architecture developed for the Spike, and it is and the latter refined into the simple symbolic form, which has since superseded the neural network. The Spike repair heuristics make highly effective use of the conflict count information. And not only that, the number of constraint violations on scheduled activities are on potential schedule times also. And next, coming to the schedule quality measures. There are several important measures of schedule quality employed, including the number of observations on the schedule as well. Although some applications of Spike use minimum, make span or related measures, these have not important for HST scheduling, and the time boundaries of these schedule are essentially fixed, and the goal is to maximize the quality And the quality of observation scheduled, it means we can observe the quality in this in the schedule. We can observe the quality. This is the main task in this. And coming to the rescheduling also, Spike provides a support for rescheduling in variety of ways. Two worth mentioned are provided by the CSP toolkit as well. And next, coming to the next slide, coming to the Spike and HST sign scheduling. And these are the several various methods: making proposals, planning, long-term scheduling, and short-term scheduling. And by using these things, we can be schedule a task using the Spike and the HST. And the planning means we need to plan, and the long-term scheduling means it takes a long time to schedule a task. Short-term means it takes the less short time. Mostly we use the short-term scheduling because it will be the task we will go the faster way, so that we use the short-term scheduling as the most probably used, because this one is the highest used one. And coming to the next one, coming to the next slide, yeah, transformation. Given the high level astronomically oriented description of the observations found in the phase 2 proposal, the next step is essentially one of planning. It is the role of transformation system to convert the declarative proposal from the astronomer into a set of aggregated exposures. Not only that, transformation performs several planning tasks, including determining the order to execute observations, breaking exposures into pieces to better match target visibility conditions, and the minimize overhead operations, choosing specific implementation scenarios, supplying values of instrumental settings which were defaulted by the proposer. And coming to the long-term scheduling is the set of observing proposals from the transformations, and the certain combinations of HST instruments can operate in tandem, and for some astronomical targets, such parallel observations can yield very interesting data. The matching system analyzes the weekly schedule and finds appropriate matches from the pool of parallel proposals. Forms is an expert system for identifying and ranking the quality of matches. Multiple ranked candidate parallel matches are sent to the SPSS along with the each weekly schedule. And next, coming to the short-term scheduling. Yep, short-term scheduling. It operates within a week of time. In the name itself, it says that the short term, it means the less time of the task. And the wait list of SUs from the long-term plan, generating a week-long sequence of activities called a calendar. And not only that, output of the process is a science mission specification. It means SMS, and can be thought of as an assembly language which controls the HST. The STSCL delivers the SMS to the Payload Operations Control Center (POCC) at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, where it is checked for the errors and constraint violations which would affect the healthy or safety of the HST and its instruments as well. And based on these SMS, the POCC prepares the binary command loads for the two onboard computers which control the observatory. And next, my friend will continue. Giri will continue.
Thank you, Nanda. Now I'm going to discuss about the implementation. The Spike's development begins in the early of 1987 with the help of the Texas Instruments Explorer Lisp missions. The Spike graphical user interface was included in the KE common windows. Hardware and software tools used to run Lisp have evolved significantly since 1987. To put it another way, the common Lisp object system now runs all of the flavors code. The Lisp language latest additions to Spike were not difficult to incorporate. There are no plans to switch to C or C++ for any of the systems. With quick prototyping, PEP transformation and the Spike were able to put into place about the HST in time for testing and operations. The use of the real world test data was very important. The launch of HST was delayed, so we had a lot of proposals to look at things. They were used to test prototypes and make development decisions. Unexpected approach to development was balanced by a strong focus on the traditional risk management practices like configuration control and the testing, which we used to make sure our project was safe. The code management technologies are used by developers to keep changes from being made haphazardly. The software development, testing, and installations are all done as much as possible with the help of the software tools. This way, problems can be found before the software is sent to users and human can make mistakes. And coming to the operational experience, to begin with, it served as a scheduling tool for HST cycle 0. It was determined that The SP observations would take place at the specific time. By verifying this timeline and scheduling GTO observations in weeks when time permitted, the STSCI used spike. The spike cycle 0 concepts were scheduled using the spike in an interactive manner. They would use timeline displays to show off each suggestions and then pick times when people would be most likely to be around. In addition to making promises by hand, certain automated scheduling technologies were used. It has also been largely done by hand with little use of high-level automated schedules in the scheduling of early bits for cycle 1. Um, the proposals and observations were assigned to weeks that were possible, but not always the optimal ones when the spike was used in the mode. And the spike scheduling system has been used by NASA's Hubble Space Telescope since it was launched. It is a part of the large and complicated spacecraft ground system. To make real-world scheduling decisions, a concept called the suitability functions is used in the spike. This makes it easy to show the many factors that plays a role. In order to make schedulers a powerful multi-start uh, uh, stochastic repair method is used. Many spacecraft and the ground-based operations have used Spike to adapt it and their needs. It has also been used to combine long and short-term scheduling at different levels of abstraction in the same constraints represented under such framework. Thank you.